In this episode of Film Stock Reviews, I'm reviewing Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin. Now, Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin is the 7th installment in the Paranormal Activity franchise. And this is a found footage supernatural horror movie. And this is a reboot or a redo of the entire franchise. So this is a different standalone sequel than the previous 6 movies, which all those movies were connected by one story. This is an entirely different new story. Now, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin was released October 29th, 2021 on Paramount Plus. So it's a Paramount Plus original movie. Now, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin tells the story of Margot, who wants to make a documentary film about herself along with her boyfriend, Chris. Her boyfriend, Chris, assists her, and they want to find out where Margot came from, because evidently Margot was actually abandoned by her mother when she was a young girl. She doesn't know why she was abandoned, and all the while she connects with this Amish guy who is on his Rumspringer, and his name is Samuel, and somehow he's a blood relative to Margot. It is explained later on how that's possible, but evidently they are, through a DNA match, they found out that they're blood relatives. So Margot, Chris, her boyfriend, and Dale, who was the production assistant on the documentary, and with Samuel, they go to the area where Samuel is living with his Amish family, or Margot's family. We find out the backstory of what's happening on this Amish community called Baylor Farm, and it's very, very interesting. I do want to say I was very hesitant to hear that there was a 7th movie being made, but with this 7th movie, I was very impressed of how things were. Of course, it's your normal trope of horror with the Paranormal Activity movies. The quick scares, nothing actually picks up until maybe the last 35 minutes of the movie. And that's what happens with this one. But the story aspect to it was really, really fleshed out than the very first Paranormal Activity movie. In the first Paranormal Activity movie, we get that Katie and her husband Mika are together, something happens, demons, and we get the whole story in one movie. It took 6 movies to have a good Paranormal Activity story again, and this is what it is. Seeing the Amish community is very interesting and intriguing in a way, because you didn't know if they could be scary enough, and boy, they are terrifying. There are really good, well done scenes in this movie, and I have to say the scenes that really stood out were the scenes in the attic that Margot goes to. The scene from start to finish, the sequence and how everything plays out and how everything pans out is really, really good and really, really unexpected. It's different in a way because you really don't get that in any Paranormal Activity movie, how sequences are go. But, you know, it's a quick scare and then cut, next scene, or a door moves like that. There's none of that. There's no door moving, no other aspect of the supernatural in this until the very end, which is really good because everything happens at the very end. People might say that this is your normal Paranormal Activity movie. Well, it's not really. The story is what drives this movie forward. The acting isn't really bad at all. The Amish community is really scary at times, and there is no real jump scare in this until the very end. And while Margot wants to find out who her mother is, where her mother is, and if her mother's still alive, all of those questions are answered in the final act of this movie. I did like one scene near the end where, of course, it's the found footage genre, and, you know, we're doing that whole found footage thing, and then all of a sudden, it turns into a film. Like, it's not, nobody's holding a camera, it's not found footage, it's just Margot and someone else talking and interacting with one another. And then once something happens, it goes back to the found footage genre, which was very clever and very unique. And I love that a lot about this movie because it was really, really good and really done well about how they did it. The pacing is actually really good, and the slow, creaking sounds you hear in the background, if you're watching it, you hear like subtle noises like singing or faint whispers or screams. You know what's happening, but then you don't actually know the whole story. There is a big underlining factor in this movie, and it has to do with the demon named Asmodeus. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to know about Asmodeus, look up the research, do your research. Hey, I'm just going to leave it at that, because that demon plays a huge part in this movie. And then we find out who this Amish community is, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and we find out Margot's real purpose and why she's there. And it's interesting to see how the boyfriend, Chris, plays a supporting role in this, while it's really interesting because some horror movies don't have that supporting character role for a girlfriend, but this really was good. And Dale in this movie is the comic relief. I mean, he knocked it out of the ballpark, because the character of Dale, played by Dan Lippert, was really, really good. It made the movie worth watching. And it's really interesting because he just gets into things and just doesn't care, speaks his mind, and it's really fun to see a character like that in a found footage genre movie, because there's not many of that in any horror genres or found footage genres like that, for that matter. I really enjoyed this movie from start to finish, but based on story-wise, this movie is really good. It's just creepy and it's unsettling in a way, and when you find out what's happening, even though some of the trailer and the teaser trailer gave away certain things, there's more to it than that. And the setting of being out in the cold, in the wilderness, and certain things being done differently than what you normally see in a Paranormal Activity movie is really, really good. I'm very surprised that Jason Blum and Oren Peli produced this movie. And if you didn't know, Oren Peli was the original director of the first Paranormal Activity movie, and seeing Jason Blum do this is really, really good. Of course, I'm curious to see if they're going to continue with this, because if it's a hit on Paramount Plus, of course we're going to get another one. But this is a new so-called rendition and redo of a story. It's a standalone sequel. It's the 7th movie in the franchise. But being it that it's the 7th movie in the franchise, you probably could make more, because you can go with this story even more. Flesh out the story a little bit more. Because, I do want to say that there are a lot of interesting questions that need to be answered and how things are done. But the demon was very, very surprising. The supernatural elements were really good. It's your normal Paranormal Activity trope. You see things in the background, quick scare, done. That's it. That's all it is. For me, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin gets 4 out of 5 stars. I love the story. I loved Dale, the character. I love the Amish community setting of Baylor Farm, because it was really, really done well. And Margot as the center character and lead was really, really good. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of it? And will you be checking it out now that I reviewed it? And what did you think about the setting, the story? And do you think there'll be more Paranormal Activity movies after this, even though this is a standalone sequel and the 7th installment in the franchise? Let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next review video.